Welcome to Tea Time with Shaylee and Amber. I'm Shaylee Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We are super excited to have Natalia Graf on with us today. She is the CEO of Sync Equestrian, a really good friend of ours, an equestrian herself, and it's just going to be such a fun conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you guys for having me. I miss your faces. I know I met you in real life last year, so it's so good to see you both together at the same time.
I know it's like nice to have technology to link us all together, but it doesn't beat hanging out in person. Fortunately, I feel like I get to connect with you through your animals whenever they reach out. So that's always a perk.
Leo's barking right now. He's like, Shaylee.
I think every time I talk to you, Leo chimes in, which is just so great. And for those of you that don't know, what breed is he?
A Samoyed.
A Samoyed. He's like this white, fluffy cotton ball, and she walks him in a harness that says free hugs. So if that tells you anything about his personality.
I love that. He just brings so much love to everyone who meets him. Like even people who are afraid of dogs, when they meet him, they're like, usually I'm so scared of dogs, but I really love your dog. Can I pet him? And I'm like, look at you, Leo. Like you're people overcome traumas and all sorts of stuff.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know you or hasn't heard about Sync Equestrian, can you just speak a little bit about, I mean, I know you're an equestrian first, but tell us a little bit about your equine journey and how you built your business.
Ooh, this is like a really, I'm gonna make it like short or as like short as I can. Where do I start? I feel like I've lived a lot of lives in this life, and I'm like, I used to at least constantly reinvent myself, and I've been like every person you can think of. I was born and raised in Germany. I moved here when I was 12, didn't speak any English. Like that was like a huge shift in my life, which was also great because I learned how to adapt. Then when I was like 12, I mean, when I was 18, I was like, oh, I want to move to New York. I moved there all by myself. I randomly decided I wanted to become a model because of other traumas, and I did that. And then I was like, oh, wait, I don't like doing that. I need something more serious because I was always very like free-spirited, and I'm very type B. Like I'm not type A at all. Sometimes I don't even know how I have like a company. And I'm just like, what? Um, so then I was like, oh, I need to do something more serious. So I went from like being a professional model to selling luxury real estate. And then I just constantly felt empty. And I started riding horses at a young age in Germany. It's, as you guys know, very popular in Europe. And that was like that one bridge I had when I moved to America. I didn't speak any English, but I got into horses as soon as I moved here. Like literally 2 weeks later, I was like, where can I go where I can find horses? I need to ride. It's the only thing I understand. So I found a barn close by, which kind of put me on my journey as well because of that barn, I was able to really adapt and adjust to this new life, in the United States. And the mare I was leasing, I was working off to lease, always told me, like you don't need to speak the language. The language is love. And that is something that I like still hold on to, like to this day. Like I will always remember Patty and what she taught me. And then okay, so then I was in New York for 12 years. I was doing the real estate thing. And then again, I was like, oh, this is like, I'm still not structured. Like I need structure. I need to do the corporate rat race. I need to do things that I see on TV, get that six-figure salary and like have this stability. So I moved back to the Washington, D.C., Virginia area, which is where I came after I moved from Germany. So my parents are here. So I came back here. And the first thing I did was get this 9 to 5. It was like business to business sales. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. Naturally, I'm like really competitive. So like whatever I do, it's either zero or like 1,000. Like there's like no in between. And I worked my ass into the ground. I was missing patches of hair. I had to cold call businesses from like 8 to 12 and then schedule 8 meetings a week with C-level executives. Now, imagine going from a life being like a professional model in New York and like you had like the red carpet rolled out and you went to all these glamorous parties and all this stuff to now only relying on your voice, and trying to sell something to someone. And this job is really the reason I started my company because it fucking broke me because I worked 10 hours for a job that I hated. I was in this little cubicle office. Like my whole world was so gray. And I just thought to myself every morning, and I was addicted to Adderall at the time. I never took more than what you're supposed to take, but it was like the only way I could like get out of bed and do anything, like to go to this like miserable soul-sucking job. So I was taking my Adderall, going to this job, and then I would be so up on the Adderall that I wouldn't be able to sleep. So then I'd like have to smoke weed just to be able to sleep. And I did this for like a year and a half, until one day the weed, I don't know what happened, but I was like meditating and I went deep into some sort of rabbit hole. Like my whole world changed. And I like woke up and I was like, oh my gosh. And I felt bliss in a way that I can't even explain to you. It's like I went to work the next day, like even on my commute, I just saw love, so much love in every single human. And like, I feel like this is what people talk about when they've like reached this point. Like, my heart could just explode. And like, every interaction, every person, it was almost like slow motion. Like, I was in a trance and I wasn't like on weed or anything when I was like commuting to work. Like, this was like after I went through some rabbit hole in my meditation. And then from that day on, I said to myself, okay, I'm never going to live like this again. What do I need to do? So then I kept meditating. And the first message I got was like, you have to get off the Adderall. You have to change your life. You have to quit this job. You have to basically reinvent yourself all over, but now from a different perspective. Because all my traumas came to me like literally all at once. And this was like back in 2017, 2018. So I realized like why I became a model. Like all of these things were like childhood wounds coming to the surface and had absolutely nothing to do with anything I even really wanted to do in my life. Because the only thing I always loved were horses. So then, so then I quit my job and I had a cushy six-figure salary. Like from the outside looking in, you'd think, oh my gosh, like her life is amazing. I had this like nice apartment with my ex-boyfriend, left him, got off that, quit my job, showed up at my dad's doorstep. And mind you, I hadn't lived at home since I was like 18, because like as soon as I turned 18, I moved to New York. And I was like, I need you to get me off these pills. My life is a mess. I don't know what to do. And I was lucky enough to have someone to like fall back on. I know a lot of people who go through these things, like, what would you do if you quit your job? So I was grateful that I could go to my dad's house. And that was the hardest, hardest year of my life. When I tell you I hit rock bottom, I would look at the ceiling and not care if I lived. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, every day felt like super slow. I had no motivation, no purpose, because the other thing is when you get off Adderall, your brain is so used to constantly pumping like dopamine into your brain that when you take it away, your body doesn't even know how to do that anymore. So you're constantly depressed. Not only was I depressed, but I was freshly out of a relationship. I didn't have a job. I had this beautiful car I had to give back. Like my whole life fell apart. And every morning I would just wake up and stare at the ceiling and ask myself, like, what am I going to do? And this is, I guess, what they call like the dark night of the soul, although I think we go through that multiple times throughout all this, but this was like my big one. And yeah, it was really bad. So then I thought to myself, well, what can I do to get my spirits up? Okay, I've always loved horses. It was always on my mind when I moved back to Virginia to get into horses. So then I looked online and I found a place to potentially lease a horse. So I go there. Lady says, yeah, you can come lease a horse in exchange for work, blah, 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 blah. The day I get to this barn is the same day that King got off the trailer. So we get to this barn on the exact same day. And I just remember seeing him and like every big thing that's always happened in my life is in slow motion. I can't even explain it. See it in slow motion. I think the first time I saw a Samoyed in New York, that Samoyed was in slow motion because it was like my future self knew I was gonna have one day. So it was like the same thing. I see him come off the trailer and I kept referring to King as a she. And I kept saying, she is so powerful. She is so elegant. It was like a little kid, just like mesmerized by this horse. No intention of buying this horse. Didn't know what the fuck I was gonna do with my life. But he was just like so magical to me. Long story short, I kind of bonded with him, and this place was a facility that would like get thoroughbreds off the track, train them, and then resell them. And by train them, I put that like this because hot mess. But so he comes in and injures himself.
Oh
And all of
no.
a sudden, he's there for, I think, like 3 or 4 months. And then he finally gets better. So we bond during this time. I'm always like, working with him, handling him. And the lady says to me, "Do you want to buy him? Because I'm going to sell him." And I was like, "With what money?" Like, I don't even know where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do for work. Like, how am I going to have this horse right now? Like, I love him to death. I would die if you sold him, but I don't know what to do. Long story short, it worked out. I ended up working at the place too to help pay off some of his things. I bought him, and that's where my journey really started to where I am today. Because if you would have met me that day, the first day where when I got to that barn versus today, completely different person. I like my shoulders were like I was so small. Like my energy was so small. I was scared to speak up. I had no confidence. It was like my whole life was like ripped right under me. And I was like a newborn baby, almost like trying to grasp this world because everything I had been told was a lie. And I was just so confused and I didn't know anything anymore. And little by little, King is the reason I was able to build what's now a multi-million-dollar brand and be this confident person. And he's still like it's not over. And Shaylee, you know all of this. Like it's constantly going. Where this horse and horses in general have put me on this amazing path of just freedom and me being able to do what I love for a living, essentially. But okay, so then I get him and I start my first business, which was, and this is a year as I'm going through the recovery. So that whole recovery process took a whole year. A year later, I decided I wanted to start a business, and it was a digital marketing agency. So I helped a lot of local businesses with digital marketing, like Facebook ads, content creation, like how can we get your business out there into the world. Then I realized I didn't like dealing with customers like one-on-one. It just wasn't my thing. It reminded me of my 9 to 5. So then as I was working with King, I realized there was a huge problem in the equestrian clothing market because none of the pieces like looked right to me. Everything was so boring and just like tan breeches, white top. Like there was no Shazam to it. And they fit weird. And like most of the time I would wear yoga pants to ride in because they had like pockets and they were comfortable. But then I also found like that the stitching wasn't good and it would like peel and the quality just wasn't made for riding. So 3 people told me in like 1 week, they were like, "Oh, like your outfits, like your riding outfits always look so cute. You should start a riding business, like a clothing business." And it was in my head already. So then when 3 people said it to me, it's like I understood what the universe was doing. It was just like reaffirming, like, "Hey, like you should get into this. Like do it, do it." And I had learned so much from with digital marketing from having those clients and helping them with all of that I had like a really great idea on how I could do something online. And the other reason was I wanted to create something that was automated because I just want to spend my free time with horses. Like that is all I want to do. I don't want to be stuck on a computer. I don't want to be stuck in an office. I want to create something that's automated where I'm literally just hanging out with King and like my business is running itself, which is where e-commerce came into the picture as well. So then I started with 3 breaches, and I was so freaking scared to even start. Like, that was another thing. And just as I'm so scared to start, King is like a wild horse. Like, when I tell you he was like thoroughbred times a million. Like, he would rear up on the lunge line and like do all these scary things. And I'm like, I have so much fear everywhere. Like, why? So then I had to really step up and work with King. And as I was working with him, it's just such a parallel. Like slowly the fear of me starting the business to start the business also started to like melt away, like piece by piece. And I've noticed there's such a strong parallel with how I work with him and like what's going on in my life. And what we're doing is like taking me to another level with my business and personal life also, not just all business. So then we started with 3 breaches, and it was like a big hit because everybody saw those same pain points that I felt, and everybody was ready for some Shazam and some bling and all the things. And here we are 5 years later. I started with 3 breaches out of my apartment. Now we have like 60 plus items out of a warehouse. I have, employees, we have different department. Like it's just grown into something that I couldn't even dream. Like when I had my goals and I go back to 5 years ago, I just laugh because I hit those goals in like half a day. Like, and you can't even imagine where it takes you. And like I said, I'm not a planner. I'm so plan B where I'm just like so amazed that this is even happening. I have no goals where I'm like, I have like somewhat goals, but not like that, where I'm like so type A and so structured and so I need to do this, and this. Like, but it works.
Maybe you just learn to trust. Like you just learn to trust your path and the universe and like the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah. I love that you started with three and you had three people tell you to start the company. Like three is
I
obviously a
didn't think
little
about
power
that.
number for you.
I was born in March too, and on the
Oh.
23rd. So yeah.
Something else that kind of like caught my ear too is when you were like, yeah, I called King a girl. Like she's so beautiful. She's so amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if you were like, what if he was mirroring you in those moments and like you calling him a she were really like your self affirmations? Because like
I
all
thought
of
that
those
too. I
things,
thought that too.
yeah,
I thought that too,
because
like
all of
Yeah.
those
immediately.
things are like what she learned about herself that, you've really stepped into, which is so cool. I love that.
Totally. And I think because I know he's like my twin flame horse, like I know that there's no doubt. Like we are the same. Like, which is why I can't get mad at him. Like he's the most, I say it in a good way because I'm the same way, stubborn horse ever. Like this is why he stopped racing too. They said that one day he just decided he wasn't gonna race anymore. And this is what he does to me. Like I'll be in the ring trying to do pillars, and as much as he loves it, he's like, okay, I'm bored. And he just stops in his tracks and he's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And no amount of pressure, like in the past, like whatever you want to do, will make him do it. And I'm the exact same way. So I see myself in this horse, like we are the same soul that was split into two different fragments. And when I saw him that day, I think I saw who I could become, because I wasn't her in that moment, but I saw myself in him and but like a healed version of like what it could be, which is why I was so mesmerized by him. And the craziest thing, guys, like I have these videos the day I saw him, and look, it's 555 right now as I'm telling you this. I was recording him, and all of a sudden, the light, the first day I saw him on my phone made a huge butterfly. When I was
Oh, cool.
contemplating on buying him, I had turquoise nail polish on, and this is, I think, still on my Instagram. The most beautiful turquoise butterfly, like something you don't even see, sat on my hand in my car. Like, how did it even get in and wouldn't move? And it matched my nail polish, and it was so far. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I think it was like a 2 year or 3 year anniversary of like when I got him, another butterfly sat on me while I was riding him. So like the affirmations just like keep coming, it's like you can't make this up. Like and you can't make sense of it. So yeah.
Oh,
I
so
love that.
good. I know. I literally, as soon as you were telling the part about how you saw him off the trailer, I was like, oh, light shadow. Like we have the shadow version of ourselves that are the things that maybe we want to disconnect from or want to get away from, or we think we need to not be. But then there's the light shadow version where it's the stuff that it's like the really amazing parts that you sometimes can't see as well. And I feel like the moment you started talking about that, I was like, oh, that's what it was.
It was like some things you just never forget. Like that, just that moment when I saw him, it's I'll never forget. It's like love at first sight, when they say
Yeah, that's literally what happened to me with Kip. And as you know, Kip is like my king. And it was just so weird how I found the rescue while we were already going to North Carolina, was going to see a mare. The mare ended up being dead lame. Kip just happened to be there. And like, I was just like, you know what? If I can get on this horse, and for some reason, my deciding factor was if I could get on this horse and like walk, trot, canter both directions in a halter and lead rope, then I'll get him.
oh my
And
gosh.
he was like so perfect. But then it was the same for me. It's like I got him and then my life totally changed and I had all this fear and he was a wild psycho and like I couldn't, he was rearing all the time, crazy little man. It's like such a similar it's such a parallel, which is so fun. So your business has been going for 5 years now, I think you said.
Yeah.
What like keeps you inspired and in that flow state? Because like I know there's the day to day of what I mean, I know that you have so much more freedom than you did, but like having a company like that, balancing like a marriage with your horse and your dog and just like all the things. And then, you know, the industry is constant. I feel like more and more companies are entering the industry and, you know, so like what keeps you inspired and like creating new things and in love with your business still?
That's a really good question. I think for me, it's really important to have like a really good morning routine. So I try to meditate almost every morning. Like I just have my time to myself. Like I get my coffee, I sit in my chair, I meditate, I like read something that'll make me feel good, and I just really start my day on that vibe. And I just love what I do for work. I think that's just what motivates me. And I always think I can never go back to like a 9 to 5. And I know I never will, but sometimes that fear is still there, which is so hard. And I'm like, I can never go back to that job that like worked me down. And I just really love the freedom that I have. And I think that motivates me. But also, I think just like from all the emails I get from my customers, like Sync has really turned into something more than just clothing. It's really turned into like empowerment for women. And that's what makes me really happy. I get so many emails and messages from women saying that they feel like $1 million when they wear our clothing and they feel so confident. And I had a really deep meditation with horses where they told me back in the day, horses, obviously helped us build cities and everything that they did for us to help humankind evolve. But now, right now, in this era, they are on a journey to help women, especially with finding their voice and finding their own empowerment. And I really channel that into the brand through the horses. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just to help people also remember like their own power and strength. And we do that through like our copy, for example, and like our messaging. And like right now, I have a top that says powerful, and you see that when you're riding. It's like the little things. And we add bling and we want people to feel beautiful because as horse people, like we wear our riding clothes more than anything else. And most people just wear whatever they can like throw on and they go on about their day, do barn shows and so on. But when you show up feeling good, like it just elevates your vibe. I can't even explain it. And when you feel confident, like your vibe changes as well and like good things start happening in your life. So it's turned more into than just clothing. And I think that's what motivates me also. I feel like I have a responsibility to continue to, be this like safe house for all these women. And we were actually the first brand to showcase like bigger sizes, in our advertisement. Like we don't just show one body type, like we show every woman, every age. Like I have this freaking fabulous 78-year-old woman who's like in our ads, with her gray hair, just like
I
rock
saw her the other day.
because
Yeah.
I want women to see themselves and not think that they have to change because I went through a lot of trauma and like you guys remember from EOC, it was just like a hot crime mess. As a professional model, even with like so much pressure on the way I look and how much I weigh, and like that is all I bring to the table. And oh my God, forbid I start aging, my value is over, or women don't want to wear certain clothes because they're a certain age. Like, I want to break all those barriers and really create a platform and clothing for women to feel comfortable and to allow themselves to get really, really big, like get big with your energy. So that's why we got the bling and everything too.
I love that. And I feel like it's like I am like a colorful person too. Like I just love crazy leggings and stuff. And I am definitely the person who um would just wear yoga pants all the time because I just don't like the way that breeches feel. And I don't, it's just like they're stretchy, but like they're not stretchy in the right places.
Right.
And um now I have a pair of dragon breeches and I will say like I looked at them and I was like, am I gonna fit in the like she sent me a small and I was all, I was like, I don't know. And I put them on and I literally texted Amber and was like, holy shit. Like I know that everyone said that they're comfortable, but like they are comfortable. I don't know how to explain it. They're like stretchy. They literally feel like yoga pants, but like upgraded yoga pants. But
Yeah.
then, you know what's funny about it is I had to like break through a little like limiting thing. And I know you and I talked about it a little bit after you posted your sparkly helmet. And you were like, you know what? I'm not going to store away my sparkly helmet. I'm going to wear it when I want to. It's not that I'm not going to take care of it, but like I'm not going to save it for a show. Because immediately, and I don't do anything fancy with my horses. I ride them in the backyard. So I got these breeches and I was like, oh my God, I love them so much. I'm never wearing them. They're too fancy. Like, I'm never going to wear them out, cleaning my. And I had to tell myself, like, why not? Like, why not wear them out and go for a trail ride or whatever? But it's so funny because I think that there are a lot of us who don't it's not that we don't it's like almost like we value our nice things or I don't know what it is. Amber, does that ever happen to you? Like, do you save certain clothing items or is that like a I feel like that's an English thing. I feel like
You
a lot of
know,
Western writers don't do that.
I told Natalia in the beginning when the dragon breeches came out, and then there was a set you had that were like lace, and I was literally like, I don't even wear breeches, but like I might just actually get breeches because I want to wear them. But you know what's
Yeah.
interesting is that for a long time it was not that with me, it was candles. Like people would get you candles
Oh
for
yeah.
gifts, and if they smelled really good, I wouldn't want to burn them. And
Mm.
I don't know what happened at some point, but like I get the things now and no, I light them immediately and I'm
Yeah.
like, nope, my I can always find more and I will always have good smelling candles. I don't know what it was about candles, but it was so strange. Like I had a huge drawer full of unburnt candles and it was because I was so much in scarcity over good
Yeah.
smelling candles.
That's where that comes from. It's scarcity, or sometimes it's almost like, people even save a nice dress, like, oh, I'm not good enough to wear this right now. It needs to be like a
Mhm.
really good moment. Like, but what the fuck are we waiting on?
Yeah,
We
Mm-hmm.
could literally
exactly.
die tomorrow. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows, you
Burn the
know?
candles and wear
Yeah,
the breeches.
yeah, say the preachers, burn the candles, live every
Don't burn the breeches.
day. Like live every day, you know? Truly live. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I love how I think we met you at EOC before I really saw any. I have your ads in my algorithm constantly, which I love.
Yes,
And
it's working.
I know I'm like, Shailene, I need to reach out to Natalia and with our marketing.
Yes.
Um, and I love how because I know you and I've experienced you in real life, and then seeing you online, and I think this is true for a lot of women in the industry because so many people are so much more willing to show up as who they are, beautiful and successful and like all the things. Like you can have all the things and you can also be supportive of other women. Like it's not competitive. It's like this collaboration of like when you were talking about, I want people to feel like they can just go out and be big and be all of themselves and authentic. And I love that. And also, I don't know if this is something you ever deal with or not, but is there like hate at all for like that you get behind it? I
Oh
know
my
that.
God.
And how do you deal with that?
So first
Because
of
I
all,
look at him like there's a part of me 5 years ago that would have seen you and been like, oh, like she's so pretty, look and she's so successful. Because I was a bitter, maybe more than 5 years ago. But I was like, I was that person who would see somebody doing better, and I felt like I was so less than that it would be projected out onto them. Now I come from a place where I get so excited for all of my friends doing the things that they're doing. And I'm like, yes, but I do realize that the majority of the population is not in that space sometimes. So how is that for you?
yeah, so it was really hard in the beginning. I didn't even come forward as a CEO of my brand up until like confidently, I'd say even like last year. Like it was like little by little
There-
because I would get so much hate online from people like even to this day, like people will literally comment under my ads, like when it's me in particular and say, that girl doesn't ride.
Oh my
That girl has a groom who just like hands her horse. Or and then now I kind of take it upon myself to share that I am the CEO to help people change their perspective. And it's like, not only does she ride, but she's also the CEO of this entire brand, just so people can open their perspective. Sometimes I used to feel like it's also, and I could be wrong, maybe like a racial thing too, because I don't look like your typical equestrian. And like now here you see me with a horse. Uh, I don't know. But either way, I used to get a lot of hate and I still do. And I sent them love because to me, people project their own feelings about themselves onto you. So if someone's being mean to me, it just means that they're dealing with some stuff. And I used to take it personal. And when you take it personal, you actually attach your energy to that person and you're giving them all your power. So now I write my comment and I'm like, hey, this is the CEO of the brand, blah, blah, blah. But I also send them a little bit of love, which used to be hard to do, but now it actually also makes me feel better because I don't know what that person is going through. I don't know if someone died today, if, they're behind on their payments or if, like something terrible is going on in their lives. So I just tell myself that because it also helps me give them a little bit of like empathy and send them love instead of get upset. Because I used to get really, really upset. Like even last week, I got a little upset because some girl said, I don't ride because I have a belly ring. Because like I pulled up my shirt to like show something and she was like, that girl doesn't ride. She has a navel ring. And I was like, what the fuck?
What?
You know? So
You're not riding on your belly.
she tried to say it. Then Sink said, "No, no, she does right, and that's actually the CEO." And then this is what triggered me. Then she said, "No, that is not the CEO. I bet you that is not the CEO." And then I really wanted to say, "Why? Do you think some white bearded man is the CEO?" But I didn't, and I held myself back. And but that did trigger me. Like, how do you tell the brand who the CEO is?
It's so funny in those moments too, like setting the ego aside and remembering that like you have nothing to prove. Like I don't have
Yes.
to prove myself to you. That was a struggle for me in my animal communication business because I would get comments or messages about how, it was bullshit or how can a horse even know this color? Like, just like questioning and it's all just because someone doesn't understand it and they can't conceptualize it. And so they project and stuff like that. But I used to like get caught up in that energy of like,
Absolutely.
these are all the reasons why what I'm saying is valid. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have anything to prove. But we were talking before this call about like reviews and customer service and stuff. And that is something that I will say for me personally. And I'm just thinking, like, if I were in your shoes and having to deal with I think part of that is like, why big time celebrities really struggle and they have to get away from everything. So it's like everyone has an opinion, everyone has something to say, and you can
Yeah.
be as strong as you want. But when you see it all the time, and just me on like such a small scale, I recognized when I first started my business that because my business is so based on word of mouth, that I became obsessed with my reviews. And not that I
Oh
was
yeah.
obsessed with like getting reviews all the time, but I was obsessed with like maintaining my 5-star review. And I
Right.
put a lot of like my self-worth and my value into that where I was like, I can't get a bad review. Like I really pride myself on giving a good reading and all this stuff. And then I got one bad review one time and it like crushed me. I was so sad about it and I just like couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that the person would like leave me a review instead of reaching out to me or whatever. And it was actually my mom's fault. She was working with me at the time and she was like, the person who emailed me back is not compassionate and blah blah. And I was like, Mom, you got me a bad review. But it was like in that moment, I actually have only had two in 10 years, like negative feedback. But both of them were like, so I recognized in those moments that I was like giving too much of my power away and not like truly seeing the value of what I have to bring and like trusting that it's going to align with people and like I think about that in a way with, obviously I'm selling more of like an energy or a service that's not tangible, but I think about that with you, like you're making a product and even though you might have a target audience, you're putting it out there for the highest and best good. You see the value in your product and you're just putting it out there versus yeah, it's so interesting getting caught up in reviews and like um and I actually turned them off on my website because I recognized that I was people pleasing hardcore in moments where I should have been setting boundaries because I was like, but what if they leave me a bad review? And
Right.
finally I was like, you know what? Like the me like standing up for myself is more important to me than someone leaving me a bad review and like why do I even have reviews on here anyway if people want to know like the value of my sessions, then they can book one with me and then they can decide. But I'm sure it's difficult because you have to deal with that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, setting boundaries is so important. I used to be just like that too. I'd be so freaking scared of a bad review and I'd like bend over backwards to make the person happy who left a review so they could remove a review, like that sort of thing. But like now as a company, I think to myself, okay, would Neiman Marcus, like what would they do? You know, like I put myself in the shoes of like the really big brands because that's where I'm going. And what would they do in a situation like this? Like they are going to stand their ground and yeah, sometimes, if you're in the wrong, of course, do things to make it right. But a lot of the
Mhm.
time, we've gotten people who just like this one scenario wanted to return something after they wrote in. Like that's not going to happen. And I'm going to stand my ground on that and not bend over backwards and be inauthentic to myself just to please someone else. So
Mhm.
you have to, for me at least, I have to stand my ground and stand by our policies and not make exceptions. We've heard the craziest stories from people, but if you make one exception, then you have to make it for everyone too. So it's important to have those boundaries when you're in business, to stand behind yourself and like always ask yourself, what would X, Y, and Z do? Like a company you look up to, or I don't know, if you're trying to elevate something else, like a person you look up to, like what would this person do right now? And that's really helped me not be so scared. But I definitely still have like personally the issue of like constantly finding the need to prove myself. That is actually something I'm actively working on and aware of. And I'm a projector. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like human design and stuff. So
Mhm.
Shaylee knows mine, I don't.
So as a projector, like the biggest thing is like always needing to get recognition and proving yourself. So it's definitely something that I work on all the time. And it's a never-ending journey. Like, yeah, I meditate every day. Yeah, I've built a business that's successful and like all this stuff. But I have so much shit that I still deal with every day where it's like a battle in my head. And I'm like, not today, Satan. We're not doing that. And I get imposter syndrome sometimes still every time I make a post on Instagram, like the day after, sometimes, like when it's business related, I get imposter syndrome still. So yeah, it's a journey.
It
Never.
is a journey. I love that you're so authentic in your journey, though, and you're always sharing it. And I was doing a meditation the other day, and like my subconscious just kept telling me, and it was one of like the Joe Dispenza meditations where like you do the breath where you pull the breath up through your body and you're kind of like bringing up those survival emotions. And I would like get to my solar plexus and be like, like, oh, I can't bring it up. And then I found myself like, you are going to, it's like I'm proving myself to myself where I'm like, you are going to bring this energy up. Like you have been meditating for a long, and it's that inner critic too that comes up where it's like, you know this, you can do this, whatever. And then my little subconscious was like, you have permission to be a human right now. And I was like, oh gosh. But it's so interesting. Tammy Billups is a healer that I really like. She's an author and an animal communicator. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she featured Kip and I in her most recent book. It actually just came out, and we are
Congratulations.
under what?
Congratulations.
Oh,
That's awesome.
thanks. Thanks. Yeah, it was fun like telling her my story and I'm excited to well hopefully have her back on the podcast and talk about it. But she has these core profiles like the scared one, the what are they? The scared one, the protector, the sensitive one, the needy one. It's like these core profiles that our animals can carry and mirror in us. And Kip
Yeah.
and I are the perfect ones. And it's like literally all about fear of failure, proving yourself. You have to step away from the mechanical, like it's basically like you hold such a high standard for yourself that like you are so critical. Like you cannot let yourself like fall, you can't be too
Yeah.
emotional, you can't be this. And that is like such a thing for me. And I think that's one of the reasons why you and I connected so deeply because we share so many qualities. Like we
Yeah.
share so many of those things. And speaking of, you have an abundance course, a little like evergreen course that I decided to dive into, which was so fun. And um what inspired you to make that course? And I think we should talk a bit about abundance because People get a little freaky of that, especially in the equestrian world.
Yeah, because speaking of money is just like such a taboo. And I tell you, I didn't hit my first million until I really got into the energy of abundance. So you can meditate all you want. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but you can visualize all you want. But until you tackle the specific subconscious beliefs, and this is if you want to manifest more abundance, right? Until you really tackle those subconscious beliefs about money, that meter is not going to move. So, we all have a money meter. Okay, let me back up because I might be going a little too
You're
forward.
too far. You're in the middle.
This is where my type B personality, my ADD. Okay. Um, so money is energy. And when you think of money like, let's say, leaves on the ground, it's fall, right? A tree loses all the leaves and they just keep coming. Now imagine those leaves are dollar bills because the true nature of money is abundance, just like everything else in nature. The only thing in the way of people reaching their financial goals are limiting beliefs. So we've all had, relatives maybe or friends who say things like, money doesn't grow on trees. And we've been told all these things like deep-rooted subconscious beliefs about money. You have to work really, really hard for money. People put money on a pedestal. Like these are all things that actually hold people back from making money because the true state of money is abundance. It just keeps on coming. So when you treat money like that and you realize that it's just a flow and it just it circulates, right? You spend money, you bring money, you spend money, you bring money, and it's this beautiful flow of energy. You start to see that you make so much more money. And I play around with this with my sales all the time. So I remember, I think it was like 3 years ago, I had like a really big month, and this is before I knew anything about like the abundance work with money. I had a really big month, and my nervous system was not ready for it. So getting your nervous system intact with money is also very crucial. And like I go deeper into this in the course, but for example, a lot of people like when they check their bank accounts, like their nervous system goes into flight and fear when the bill comes, flight and fear when, they have to pay for something, flight and fear when they go buy themselves something nice, when they have to pay, they just like your whole body goes like this. And that's because you're not trusting yourself with money. You don't believe money is abundant in nature. And when you start working with your nervous system and you retrain your nervous system around money, it just literally comes to you tenfold. And I know it sounds a little out there, but it's true. So when I hit that big month, I noticed that my nervous system couldn't handle it. So I self-sabotaged myself. And the next month, my sales came down again. And I started to notice this yo-yo pattern. And this is how I really got into this work. And my business was like the perfect experimental bunny, I guess you can say, for me to really pay attention to what's going on with the energy of money. So then I realized, okay, obviously I'm doing this because I know that everything in my reality comes from my subconscious beliefs. So what subconscious beliefs do I have that keep creating a yo-yo in my sales instead of continuously taking it up higher every month? So then I read a book. It's called Rich as Fuck by Amanda Frances. Highly recommend. I just love her. I love her books. She's fabulous. And she really talks about this too. And I just started to dig deeper and deeper into figuring out what my subconscious beliefs are. And you can start with little stuff. So like every time you get gas, you tell yourself, instead of like stressing about gas prices, you just change that perspective, just like everything else in life. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I'm able to get gas so I can go from point A to B. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this bill because I have the money right now to pay for it and I have a roof over my head. Oh my gosh, I'm going to tip this person really well. This is another thing that I talk about is tipping people really well. Because when you're in scarcity and like you don't even want to tip others, money will not come to you. You have to be so open to it and open to receiving it and also open to giving it. And the best way to tip people, like to tip well, is to tell yourself that you're helping someone else out. Money comes in abundance. And I'm going to tip this person so well right now, and it's going to help them with whatever they need to do, and it's going to make them so happy. And then the universe brings it right back to you. And I know it sounds like a lot of different pieces right now, because again, my ADD and like sometimes I struggle start. But when you start playing with this work, you really start to see such a shift in your life and how much money you actually bring in. And I've seen tremendous growth. Like after I started doing this work, from like 100K to 300K a month. Now we're going to 500K just by doing this work. Nothing else is changing in my business. I am just applying all of these things with money in my business. And we all have, and this is what I was going to in the beginning, which is really important. We all have a money meter, something we're really comfortable with receiving every month. And we also have a meter at the bottom, right? And this is like the least amount we make every month. And if you really think about your life, you've probably never gone under that minimum that you always expect every month, right? Because that's your baseline you've set. Like this is the minimum. No matter what I do, I always make this much every month. However, we also have a maximum that we're comfortable with every month, and you're probably never going over that maximum until you consciously make a decision to work with your nervous system to get over that. And I'm not saying jump from like 10K to like all of a sudden 20K or 30K or 40, whatever your number is, but do it really gradually. So, and the more you do it, then you can jump up really high, but then you train your nervous system. So if like your monthly thing is like, let's just say 10K, you subconsciously start telling yourself, I make 12K. Oh, I feel so comfortable making 12K. Make that number your new norm because your nervous system will rationalize with that number and that will be your new set point. And then when you get to 12K, then you start taking it up to like 15K. And you do this very gradually and you see that it works because your nervous system is what's stopping you from going above. Like imagine you go from 10K to making 100K a month. You get really uncomfortable, right? Like that's why people who win the lottery lose everything because their nervous system is not ready for all of that money because they don't know
Yeah,
what
that's a good point.
they get
Then it's
really.
also weird that they manifested it to begin. So they were like, I guess, in the vibrational vicinity to manifest it, but then they couldn't
Yeah.
maintain it because
Because
they're
you have to work with your subconscious with money. It is such a big thing that no one talks about. And when I made my course, so it was like geared towards everyone, but especially like entrepreneurs and stuff. And I'm like, I can talk about manifesting, I can talk about all of these things. But the biggest thing that made a difference in my business was working with the energy of money and uncovering what my subconscious beliefs are around money. And that's what's really helping me grow, like 150%. It's not because, of course, the meditation and visualization, all that works, but really getting so clear on what those blocks are and constantly challenging my nervous system for the next number and making it the norm. Now I look at money like I don't care about it. You know what I mean? Like when people put money on a pedestal also, it's the biggest mistake you can make. When you put money on a pedestal, it's not going to come to you. I treat money like it works for me. Like you are my employee essentially, and I am the queen. Seriously, you work for me, and I don't care. I love my employees. I'm not saying like I don't care. I'm just saying like you work for me and I'm not putting you on a pedestal because you are not important because with or without you I am still worthy. I am still abundant and I am still that bitch. And you can take it away or you can keep multiplying it. And when you think of it like that, it just keeps multiplying because then she's like, "Oh, okay, this is what we're doing. You don't really care, so I'm going to give you a lot more because you've now removed resistance from me."
hmm
Well, just like everything else that we know about manifesting, as soon as you remove the resistance, it just comes to you so much faster. Okay.
Water pick.
I love it. I
And
will
nobody wants
say,
to talk about it. And that's another thing. Like, God, what is it? Okay, I'm a flashy person because I just love being flashy. I like all the bling. I love cars. You guys know, like I'm just flashy. It's who I am, but I don't hide it. And society will try to tell you to be quiet and be small, especially women. Ooh, God forbid women talk about money and all of the things that they want. Oh, no way. You stay quiet. You stay small. Like, no, honey. We're over here in G-Wagons that we bought ourselves that we're going to post. We're going to do whatever we want. We're going to be big with our personality. We're going to speak about it because the more empowered you are about your money as a woman and yourself, the more of a spark you're going to put into other women to go and do their shit. Because I see, and this is what makes me so, so mad, is when I see women who are stuck in marriages that they cannot get out of because they haven't found a way to make money for themselves. So when a woman
Mhm.
is truly in her power and making her own money, like that is the most powerful feeling. Like you don't need anything or anyone. And you're out here just doing whatever the fuck you want. And yeah, you have a partner, a spouse, that's great. We love them. but you're so powered, and you don't need anything outside of yourself. And it just breaks my heart when I see women who are stuck in situations because they haven't found that power within themselves to know that they are 100% capable of going out there and making their dreams come true. Like 150,000%. Like women are magical fucking creatures. Like so magical. Like you bleed with the fucking moon. How cool is that? Right? We are so intuitive. This is why the patriarchy tried to keep us down because they know how fucking powerful we are. So when a woman really taps into that and she taps into her money and she taps into her power and she's like gives queen energy and gets it for herself, like something unravels and it's like a sisterhood that all I have goosebumps right now that all women like feel. You know what I mean? And that is like I think that is why I'm here. I swear to God. And that's why I do what I do. I like clothes, but I just think it's so much deeper.
I do like clothes, but
I want everyone to feel that because it's possible for everyone. Sometimes people think, oh, like even when I started Sync, like people think, oh, like her personal Instagram, like she has so many followers. First of all, I didn't even come out as the CEO. Sync had 0 followers, like I didn't even merge my accounts. Like people tell themselves excuses all the time on why someone is successful at what they're doing and why they can't do it, but it's all bullshit because if that person did it, you can do it too. It's just that
Hmm.
belief that you have that you can't. And as women, we need to help each other and support each other and remind each other of how fucking amazing, powerful, magical, majestic, and
Mhm.
like we are in our essence. And when we
Mhm.
all do that, then the whole world will be a better place.
I want to know, I know that we're like coming up on an hour, but I want to know the correlation between you quitting your job and having your dark night of the soul and leaving your relationship. And I know because people can have a successful career and then be like, oh, but I really want the relationship. Oh, but I really want that thing over there. I have this thing, but I want that over there. Like there's always like a balancing act, but energetically, it's all the same. And I want to know the correlation between, because I know you've just recently got married,
Yes.
that correlation between you leaving all of that old stuff and then calling in a partner that you found worthy enough to actually marry you. Like, do you feel like that all kind of happened because of those shifts that were happening?
Oh, absolutely. I met my husband when I really knew myself.
Hmm.
Right? So I wasn't looking for him. Like I was starting Sync. I think I was like 2 years in with Sync, and I was like, I felt so empowered in myself where I was like, okay, if I find a partner, great. If not, like I'm good. And I went on dates and I wasn't really thinking about getting married and I was having fun and we just vibed. And I think it's really important to have a partner who supports you. Like my husband does not hold me back. I can be a lot. Okay. Especially for like a macho man, like for me to like roll in, like just like, this is who I am, this is what I do. Like it can be a lot, but he's so secure of himself to like not get threatened by anything I bring to the table. And I think it's really important for women to find a partner and bring a partner in who gives you that support, who doesn't try to dim your light or gets insecure by a woman's success. And I think I manifested that just by embodying that within myself and loving all the parts like within myself. And then that just kind of happened. But yeah, so in the past when I left, I knew that I had to like change everything. And it was all vibrationally connected, like you said.
Hmm. Fun.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I'm taking Joe Dispenza's his course, and I know we all love the work of that man here in this conversation. And it's just crazy how like I was listening to him do a talk last night and he was like, yeah, the person will come to me and they'll say, "Oh, I want this and I that," but why isn't it coming to me? And he's like, every single person that makes a transformation will tell you right here and right now that they are not the person they were before. Like there is a literal death of you biologically, physiologically, neurologically. Literally, you're creating different chemicals, different neurons, different gene expressions to become the person you want to be. And he's like, most people don't make it because you push up against all those beliefs and all those feelings that you have. Like, oh, I'm tired and I don't want to sit here and I'm frustrated and I can't do it and I can't learn and all this stuff. I love him too because he like does it in like the whiny voice. He's like walking through the crowd and he's like, I can't do it. And it's just like, but it's so true because like I feel like it could be easy for people to practice a victim mentality and yeah, I think it makes sense that they all go together because you literally reinvented yourself like on every level. You had to completely let that old version of you die to
Yeah.
step into where you are now. And it's not an easy process.
It's continuous. Like I'm still doing that, I'm constantly letting go of old parts of myself that I feel that no longer serve me. Like I told you with constantly feeling the need to prove myself, like that's something I'm actively working on now. And like I used to always be, even as of last year, in like this warrior mode, I'm like, I'm gonna go after it, I'm gonna go get it, I'm such a warrior. But like now I'm just like, oh, I can like let my shoulders down. I don't need to be a warrior. It comes effortlessly. I can just be more flowy and I don't need to prove my strength to people or, I just am. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mhm.
it's a constant journey of realizing, because I think as entrepreneurs like you guys too, like you constantly have goals of like where you want to go. And not even entrepreneurs, anybody really, right? Has goals of where they want to go in life. And in order to get there, you just have to reinvent yourself. Like every couple months almost it feels like I'm like, shit, I gotta let this go. And why is this still happening? And it's a journey that just keeps on going, but that's the fun part. Because how can you appreciate all of the amazing things in this life if you haven't had the darker things you had to get rid of, right?
Mhm.
And then you can teach it on to other people, and this is how we evolve as humans. And I think we're also blessed to even be aware of all of these things. There are a lot of people who walk through life who have no idea about any of this, and they're just like walking through life like this with like glasses on. So we have to be really grateful for this journey, even though it's not easy. But we know what we got to do. So now it's just up to us. Are you going to do it, or are you going to say you're comfortable where you are?
Yeah, so good.
Ugh, I feel so empowered now, so inspired. I always feel that way after I talk to you. I'm like, yes. You like talk and you always like your voice always gets loud and like your hands get all expressive. I'm like, yeah, she's right. Like there's something
I
about
get like
that's what I
really
loved about
passionate.
your yeah, that's what I liked about your class too, because like I'm watching you on the video and your little hands are going everywhere, and I'm like, yes.
But if I were a horse breed, I'd be a thoroughbred. So it's like me, just I'm yeah, all the time. I have to run, guys. If I don't run, like I get depressed, just like a racehorse. I don't know.
I love that.
So much
That's so
energy.
awesome.
Hmm. Is
Amber,
everyone?
you want to close our conversation?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you the kind of a question to wrap it up, where if people are watching this, and I'm in the middle of reading the Mel Robbins book, The Let It Theory,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, I've heard about that. You like it?
I do. And it's like nothing. I love it because it's like we read all these different books, right? And it's all basically the same thing. But when you hear it come from someone, sometimes you like really resonate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm all like refired up because I'm gonna let everybody like but the other half of it is there's different sections and she's talking about in business and why so many people they're so worried about what people are going to think and they're so worried about them not being ready and they're so worried about these different parts and she's like just let them talk, like let yourself talk to yourself. And then the second part of that whole theory is let me, so then from that moment you get to take and make the decision that what you're going to do next while you let everyone else mind their business. And so for people that are watching this and they're like, oh, I want to do the thing and now I feel all fired up and I want to embody Natalia's energy and I want to focus it on this thing, like, what advice would you give them when they're at that beginning point where they're like, oh, like right at the edge when they're going to make the decision to do or not to do? Like,
Yeah.
what is your.
Give yourself 2 to 3 things to do every day. Keep it really small. So baby steps, right? Because when you try to take really big steps, it can be a little scary. But if you write down even 2 things every day, like, and this is how I kind of did, like, got my feet wet. I was like, okay, today I'm gonna find someone to create my website. Today I'm gonna write what my website is going to say, like little tasks. And like before I knew it, the website was up and running, right? But when you pile it all up all at once, it gets overwhelming and then you get nothing done. So give yourself permission to do really small things every day, and then you get braver and you get more confident. And then you actually also feel really good when you do them. Like you might resist. I think a lot of us have like, well, at least I know I did, where I tried to sabotage myself, where I knew I had to do this thing, but I was so afraid that I just wouldn't, and then I would feel like crap about it all day because I said I was gonna do it and then I didn't do it, and then it just keeps on stacking for days. Just do it because you will feel better, and you got to be brave. And then as horsewomen, I always say like you work with a 1,300 pound unpredictable, magnificent being in silence. You can get two things done to give yourself a better future today. As scary as it is, you work with horses, you can do it, you know? Um, that's what I
Perfect. Perfect. So if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Natalia or Natasha. That's my handle. And then Sync, my brand is also on Instagram, Sync, SYNC Equestrian, and also syncequestrian.com. And my course and even Sync is also linked on my personal Instagram at Natalia or Natasha.
Cool. We'll put all of that in the show notes. So if you guys are interested in getting to know Natalia via her course or learning anything that she has to share with you guys, then you can find it in the show notes. And it's been so fun talking to you, as usual. When I wake up in the morning and I do my meditation and I'm like, I need to go check social media and I'm kind of sleepy and like feeling uninspired, I just go to Natalia's stories. And she's usually like driving to the freaking
I
gym,
know.
or she's like going like tromping out, like frolicking like a fairy into the pasture to go see King. And it's just like the best thing ever.
We
So
were
if you
on
guys
our trip at
don't
the
follow her, you should.
Yeah,
Just for
Yeah.
that.
she's very motivating. And it's so funny because Amber and I were on a trip together this year. And we
Oh,
were
fun.
like, yeah, we're gonna start like cultivating more abundance. We're like, who do we want to be like? Like, who's someone
And
who's magical as fuck,
we
who
went through
has a
like
lot of
four or
money?
five people, and we were like, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. And I was like, Natalia, and we know her, and
Yeah.
she's so freaking real. And like, we're gonna be like Natalia energy for 2025.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for talking with us. It
And
was
yeah, I
awesome.
hope to see you guys again when you do another retreat. I know I couldn't come to the last one, but I'm definitely going to come to the next one. So,
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, we've got some discussions happening for 2025, so we will let you know.
it will go fast.
Yeah, it will go fast.
All right,
All
guys.
right.
Love you guys. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.